Shalom. Okay. Usually we think of Shavuos as Zman Matan Torah. But on a deeper level, it's really the moment that we formally entered into a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A relationship that at its core is reciprocal. In fact, Chazal explain that Shavuos is really a time of profound spiritual renewal and intimacy with God, both as individuals and as a nation. However, aside from learning Torah and keeping its mitzvahs, what exactly is the nature of this relationship? Hashem doesn't need us to give to him. He's the source of everything. He has no needs. So in what way is it reciprocal? So today we're going to take a deeper look at this reciprocal bond. We're also going to discover the spiritual gifts that Hashem sends to us specifically on Shavuos. Not everyone knows about them, and it's very important that you do know. And we're going to learn how to tap into them. And for those of you who do not know my style, this is more like a journey than it is a shiur. So just keep in mind, at the end, everything comes together. Okay, with that introduction, let's get started. It says in Tehillim, Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Hashem is your shadow at your right hand. So there's a few explanations of this pasuk, but one of them is that there's this kind of mirror effect in our relationship with Hashem. If I move my hand and there's a shadow, I move my hand and the shadow moves together with it. It's never the other way around. So we know that Hashem is an absolute reality. His essence, his goodness, his plan for creation never ever changes. As it says, Ani Hashem lo shaniti. I Hashem, I've never changed. I don't change. Our experience of Hashem, how he appears to us, however, is very highly subjective. Our choices, our actions, our mindset, our deep-seated beliefs all directly and instantly affect how we perceive Hashem. In the Sefer Nefesh Chaim, Chaim of Volozhin writes, the Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moshe, go and say to them, to Israel, that my name is I will be as I will be. What is the meaning of I will be as I will be? Just as Hashem, you are with me, in that same way I am, just as you are with me, in that same way I am with you. And so said David, Hashem is your shadow on your right side. What is Hashem as your shadow? Like a shadow. When you play with it, it plays with you. And if you cry, it cries opposite you. If you show it an angry or cordial face, it does the same to you. So too, the Holy One, blessed be He, just as you are with Him, He is with you. Now, the Nefesh Chaim is primarily focused on our actions, but the Baal Shem Tov explains that this also includes our psychological and our emotional states. These two also affect how we perceive Hashem. So, for example, if I look at the world with anxiety, with fear, and a harsh judgment, then I'll see a harsh and judgmental God. So why is this? There's actually a few reasons. Well, one of the biggest is that dafka because Hashem does not have any physical form. Even though we do talk about his hands, face, eyes, mouth, etc., these are metaphors. So even though he doesn't have any physical form, and he also doesn't communicate with us in a physical way, this means that he's like this blank canvas for all of our beliefs and perceptions, whether or not these beliefs or perceptions are true. Okay, and this explains, for instance, why the generation that came out of Mitzrayim kept falling into these inexplicable patterns of criticism, complaints, and bitterness. This was even after being redeemed, after witnessing the 10 plagues, after being surrounded by the Ananei Kavod, the clouds of glory, the sea split for them, they're receiving man from Shemayim, they're drinking from Miriam, and they still don't understand that Hashem is with them and taking care of them. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to kind of look back at what was actually going on in Mitzrayim before they left. The truth is that they had collectively that generation had collectively experienced a deep national trauma. The most intense years of slavery were 86, but really they began even 30 years before that. So we're talking about 116 years total of servitude. And that's across several generations. So this generation was also experiencing something called generational trauma, which means that the traumas experienced by one generation actually gets passed over to the following generation. It's an interesting topic, but we're not going to talk about that now. In Mitzrayim, the Mitzrayim waged a kind of psychological warfare on Klal Yisrael. They had convinced them that every powerful authority figure was a Pharaoh. And Pharaoh himself was an incarnation of God. They conditioned them to assume that the laws are there to exploit those who follow them, to believe that their servitude was inevitable, and that their grief, bitterness, exhaustion, even their lives, it didn't matter. And all of this collective trauma distorted their vision of themselves and Hashem, even in the face of such extraordinary, open miracles and divine love. As an aside, we know that the women of Mitzrayim as a group had a very different response. Not only were they not in this state of trauma, they were actually in a state of emotional and spiritual health and even growth in the midst of a very profound and chronic Yisirei. It's actually the concept of Geula B'toch Galut, having experience of being redeemed in the middle of exile. It's a very, very high level. And as is Hashem, I'm going to do an in-depth series on this topic. How did they actually reach and maintain such a place across generations? And what this teaches us about dealing with long-term trauma in a healthy way. It's a very important topic and with very practical applications. So, Bez Hashem, this is coming. In summary, though Hashem is an absolute reality that doesn't ever change, our perception of him is incredibly subjective. It's based on our actions, our thoughts, our deep-seated beliefs, positive and negative, many of which we're not even aware of. Okay, with this in mind, we're going to move on. There's an interesting chazal on Parshas Bashalach. It's discussing a pasuk in Shirat Yam, the shir by the Yam Suf. It says, Ish milchama shmo, lama nema. Hashem is a man of war, and that's his name. Why does it say this? Lefi shenikla ala yam kegibor osei melchomot, v'nigla b'Sinai kezaken malei rachamim. Because he was revealed by the Yam like a gibor, a young warrior who makes melchumas, who makes wars, and he was revealed by Sinai like an old man full of mercy. The Bedicheva, so it says by the spelling of Hashem appears as a gibor, a young warrior, and the Bedicheva Rebbe explains that this was like an arousal from above. That Hashem like a gibor, like a young warrior rushes into the field. He's full of adrenaline and he's ready to fight. So too Hashem's revelation to Klal Yisrael was sudden, powerful, and overwhelming. Everyone from the greatest to the smallest saw Hashem directly and clearly, so clearly they could point to him, Zeh Keli ve'anvahi. Zeh Keli ve'anvahi. This is my God, and I will glorify him. The miracles that they witnessed were so tangible that God's presence was perceived as if he were standing right there before them. Now, if Hashem appears to us based on what's going on within us, then what was inside of Klal Yisrael that they were able to perceive Hashem in this way? So we need to take a look at the sequence of events in a deeper way. The Mitzrayim are coming up behind Klal Yisrael is by the shore of the Yam Suf, and the Mitzrayim are coming up behind them, and they're surrounded by the Midbar on all sides. And Moshe Rabbeinu is davening, and he's davening a long time, and Hashem tells him, "V'yamar Hashem el Moshe, ma tetzach alai, daber b'nei Yisrael v'yesa'u." Hashem says to Moshe, "What are you crying out to me? Speak to Bnei Israel and tell them to travel." So Rashi says, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "This is not the time to daven long. Klal Yisrael is in a ace tzar." And then he says, "Why are you crying out? This is matitzrak alai, alai with an ayin instead of an aleph. Why are you crying out? This is on me. Speak to Bnei Yisrael and tell them to travel." And then Rashi brings the following midrash: "Ein lehem ela lasa, she'ein hayam omed bifneim." All they have to do is travel, for the sea is not going to stand in the way. Now we need to explain what's going on here. When a person davens, he does so because he feels he's in an ace tsar. He's in a painful situation, difficult situation, and he's turning to Hashem for help. There is a mitzvah in the Torah to do this. But the Or Chaim explains that this was a very difficult situation, and tefillah wouldn't have helped. Klal Yisrael didn't deserve it. They didn't deserve a Yeshua. At that moment, there was a din in Shemayim, and the angels were arguing, Elu ve'elu, of the Avodah Zarah, Hem. These are idol worshippers, and those are idol worshippers. So why are you saving these people, and you're going to drown those? What's the difference between Klal Yisrael and the Mitzrayim? They both are doing Avodah Zarah in Mitzrayim. So Hashem put Klal Yisrael into a situation where tefillah was not operational. So the question is why? And the answer is because he wanted something else. He wanted emunah, really bitachon. Hashem was asking Klal Yisrael to understand that in reality, there's no tzara over here. Speak to Bnei Yisrael and tell them to travel. To you it looks, Hashem says to Klal Yisrael, to you it looks like a tzar. It's not. The Yam is not going to stand in your way. But in order for the path forward to be revealed, you have to believe that it's already there, even if you can't see it. So if you, in your mind, can envision that I am Hashem am going to create a path, then you don't have to daven. Because there's no tzar here. Just travel, it's on me. I'll take care of it. Your job is just to believe, to have bitachon, and be prepared to move forward. The Shalach Kodesh brings a midrash. This Klal Yisrael stood by the edge of the Yam Suf moments before it split. So it hadn't split yet. They were so sure that some kind of path would appear, even though they couldn't see it, that they had already reached the level of Shira. They were spiritually prepared to sing even before the Geula happened. And in that schus, the sea actually split. It's not stam. Klal Yisrael was on a really high level. Realize that if Klal Yisrael had focused on the situation as a tsar, if they viewed it as if they were facing a raging sea, and the Mitzrayim were coming behind them, and they're surrounded by the Yam, and they're trapped, they would not have been saved. When they saw in their minds the path forward, because Hashem said that there would be a path forward, then they negated the din from above. And there truly was no tzara. And this is why Klal Yisrael is zocher to have such a direct revelation of Hashem. Because they were able to see the world, even for a little bit, from the perspective of Hashem. All they saw was Hashem. So this is a very, very important yesod to have in mind. The Ramchal explains that there are actually two systems of hashgacha that are operational in the world. Two ways in which God directs the world that together balance out Hashem's ultimate goal to give good, to bestow good to his creations, with the need to give us the ability to make our own free choices. So the lower system is called Haganat HaMishpat, where God manages the world within the restrictions of nature, as well as reward and punishment. So in this system, good choices lead to reward and open spiritual channels, while bad choices result in divine concealment, judgment, and punishment. But as I said, there's this upper system that's called Haganat HaYichud that represents the deeper reality that sits above and directs the lower system. In this system, in this higher system, God is revealed as the sole cause of everything, even when things down here look chaotic or bad. It also ensures that regardless of our choices, the divine plan will be carried out. Evil will be nullified, and God's ultimate oneness and goodness will in the end be revealed. So with their Amunah, Klal Yisrael merited to meet Hashem, as it were, in this higher system, where both the rules of nature and merit are suspended. They actually reached the place that was above the din, that's above the judgment, to a place that is pure rachamim. And in this schus, they merited, they were saved and merited to experience such a direct revelation of Hashem. In general, Emunah and B'tochen go hand in hand with closest to Hashem. The closer, more intimate the relationship with Hashem that we have, the greater our Emunah and B'tochen is in his hashgacha, and vice versa. By the Yam Suf, however, Klal Yisrael experienced a spontaneous spiritual awakening that they really hadn't earned through a long, slow process of self-refinement and spiritual growth. So too, the resulting revelation of Hashem was a spontaneous phenomenon. It was also purely a sight-based experience. And sight as a sensory experience is something that's immediate. We can see a whole picture in a split second, but we may not understand the details and the intricacies that are contained in what we actually saw. So when we look at something, it actually bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the soul. This is in contrast to hearing something, which is a deeper internal process that requires mental concentration, analysis, and internalization. So at the Yam Suf, Klal Yisrael had no real means yet to hold on to the divine experience that they witnessed, or to direct it into action. That's why they immediately fell from this place, according to the Midrashim, even before they left the shores of the sea. Even though there was the incident, the bitter Mars of Merivah, that happened, but before they even left, they had already fallen down. And this last point is critical because any healthy relationship requires not just feelings of love and connection or passion. It has to be combined with external expression and consistency. So there's this old joke that's been floating around for ages. The wife asks her husband why he never says "I love you," and he responds, "Well, I told you that I loved you at our wedding day, and if there's anything new, I'll just let you know." So it doesn't really go that way, right? So Hashem gave Klal Yisrael the 49 days of the Omer as an opportunity to build and expand our kelim, our vessels, in order to internalize the lessons and spiritual influence of Yetzias Mitzrayim. In the process, we're able to return to Hashem, to ourselves, and to those around us. And we open our hearts to receive the awesome spiritual gifts that await us in Zman Matan Torah. And this brings us to the revelation at Sinai, at Har Sinai. By Matan Torah, Chazal say, as I mentioned earlier, that God appeared to Klal Yisrael Kazakan Malay Rachamim, as old man full of mercy. This divine partsuf, or persona of an old man, Chazal explained it represents patience, wisdom, stability, something that's settled and permanent. However, if we look at the Midrashim of the experience of Matan Torah, it seems to paint a very different picture. So just go over some of the Midrashim of that time, that experience. We know that at Mount Sinai, the entire mountain was enveloped in smoke. It was trembling violently. Hashem descends on it in a pillar of fire. There's thunder, there's lightning, there's the shofar blast that's increasing in intensity and strength. There's this total shattering of the boundaries between physical and spiritual worlds. Heaven met earth. Klal Yisrael saw that which was normally seen and heard that which was normally saw that which was not normally heard and heard that which was normally seen. Hashem opened the seven heavens and showed them that in the heavens and the earth is nothing but Him. Every Jew, even the smallest child, had nevuah and was able to see all the way to the Kisei HaKavod. As Hashem's presence descended, Klal Yisrael saw 22,000 chariots driven by malachim, burning and blazing in fire. It says further that when Hashem said the first two commandments, Klal Yisrael was physically hurled backwards a very great distance. Their souls, the neshamot, couldn't contain the intensity of the divine revelation and left their bodies, and Hashem had to resurrect them repeatedly. So my question is, where in this earth-shattering experience is the appearance of God as an old man full of mercy? How does this partsuf even fit in? So the truth is that underneath all of these awesome divine revelations and experiences, there was something much more powerful happening. Sinai, the Matan Torah at Har Sinai, marks the exact moment where the love of Hashem for Klal Yisrael, which is described as an arousal from above, an unconditional downward flow of divine love and affection, formally met the love of Klal Yisrael for Hashem, which is described as a awakening from below that ascends upward. These two loves merged, creating an eternal reciprocal bond between Hashem and his people. Every Shavuos, that bond is renewed. A bond of reciprocal love, of give and take, of two parties both committed to and invested in the relationship with each other. Hashem's love for us is unconditional and unchanging, as he says, Ani Hashem lo shiniti. And so too, within each Jewish neshama, there is this inner immutable point that loves Hashem back. It doesn't matter how far away we are from Hashem. It doesn't matter what we've done, where we've been, or where we even are at the moment. This inner reality never ever changes. Hashem loves us and we love him. So the divine Partsuf of the old man was actually a representation of this eternal, immutable bond that is not affected by human choice and actions. It is a thin, silent truth upon which the whole world stands. But there's an even deeper dimension here. We explained the persona, the image of Hashem as Ish Zaken, an old man. But it also says that he was Malei Rachamim. So what does this mean? On Shavuos, we reach the 50th gate of Tshuva. It's also called the 50th gate of Bina, of understanding. This is a spiritual reality that transcends all physical limitations. According to Kabbalah, the 49 gates can be entered and attained by anyone who tries to enter them. The 50th gate represents a revelation of Hashem's light and essence that is unattainable in this world. It transcends this world. Rabbi Nachman explains that the 50th gate is the tshuva of Hashem himself, as it were. As it says in Malachi, return to me and I will return to you. So on Shavuos, Hashem returns to us. But what does that mean? There are according to Kabbalah, there's two kinds of divine light that Hashem sends into the world. An external surrounding light, which is called Or Makif, and an inner penetrating light called Or Pnimi. The Alter Rebbe of Chabad explains that by the 50th gate, this Or Makif descends into the world. This infinite encompassing light is a direct revelation of Hashem's oneness that is too intense to be contained or processed within finite creation. So instead, it both hovers over and encompasses the world, really all the worlds, without penetrating them or illuminating them from within. On Shavuos, the neshamas of Klal Yisrael are surrounded by this Or Makif, and through this transcendent experience, each one is lifted up beyond the limitations of the physical world in order to receive several gifts. So now I'm going to go through this. One is that there's a kind of a spiritual rebirth. The neshama, as it is lifted up, experiences anew the revelation at Har Sinai, and is directly reconnected to and anchored in the Ratzon Elyon, Ha'elyon, which is the highest will and Ratzon that exists. From this place, Hashem directs the world. The light also that surrounds us then cleanses the neshama of spiritual impurity, effectively granting it a clean slate and a fresh start. So it's similar to Yom Kippur. There's also an activation of our potential going forward in a spiritual potential. in a spiritual sense. This light also activates the Yechidah. There's actually, usually when we think about our soul, our neshama, we think about the three lower levels, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. There's actually five. There are two other levels. One is called the chaya, and the other is called yechidah. These two levels reside in the upper worlds, and they actually have an experience of knowing and feeling and seeing Hashem's oneness. This is actually part of our neshama. This is another series that Bez Hashem I'm going to explain. I'm going to give over, explaining how there's actually a communication between the lower parts of our neshama and the upper parts. It's very important that we know how to activate this communication and expand it. And it's two ways, both the lower parts to above and the upper parts below. So this light, this Or Makif, actually activates the Yechidah. The Yechidah is the highest, the most hidden spark of the neshama. It's actually the point where our neshama and Hashem's essence meet, where He wills us into existence, basically. From this place, the neshama, the soul, experiences a sudden, powerful surge of desire to connect to Hashem, to His Torah, and the neshama's own tafkid in the world. The neshama itself also experiences a kind of expansion. It has a bigger kli or a vessel inside internally that allows us to internalize higher levels of chachma, of wisdom, and bina, understanding. And finally, this effect never disappears. So after Shavuos ends, after it passes, the effects of this Or Makif with the neshama remain with the neshama as a permanent spiritual imprint or roshem. And this imprint both feeds and sustains the neshama throughout the year. It's important to know that this happens regardless of where a person is, whether they keep the Torah, they don't keep the Torah. But depending on how aware, the fact that we're even aware that this exists, and we prepare ourselves to receive it, to that extent we actually can hold on and direct this experience, this downward influence throughout the coming year. So the Or Makif is in essence like the waters of a mikveh that renews, purifies, and uplifts all who enter it. But it's also a very intimate divine embrace. Hashem expresses His deep love and affection for each and every neshama, regardless of where they are. Again, we all experience it. We all have that. This experience is happening whether or not we feel it, but the more we are prepared to receive it, the more we actually can experience it and, like I said, direct it going forward. So we opened this journey with the concept of reciprocity, the reciprocal nature of our relationship with Hashem, and the mirroring, the kind of mirror aspect within it. So if we experienced Hashem as Melei Rachamim, that means we must have had some kind of Rachamim within us. If so, then what was it at Har Sinai and what is it now? When Klal Yisrael reached Sinai, they were in complete unity, ki ish echad v'lev echad, like one person, one heart. Not only did this mirror the absolute divine oneness above, which is pure rachamim. In that level, there is no din, like I said. It's just all chesed and rachamim. When Klal Yisrael came together as one, it was an act of rachamim, as it were, from Klal Yisrael towards Hashem. For the past 49 days, Klal Yisrael did the spiritual work necessary to nullify their egos, to reach a state of bittul, as Chabad would explain, until they were able to unite into one collective spiritual entity. By doing so, it created a vessel capable of drawing down the Shekhinah into the physical world. I mentioned earlier that there is a second type of divine light, an inner light called the Or Panimi. This light has the same infinite source as Or Makif, but it is filtered and condensed so that it can fill the physical world and illuminate it from within. Another characteristic of it is that it adapts to the capacity of each specific individual, giving it life without destroying without the person shattering from its intensity and infiniteness. So the Shekhinah, Chazal teach that the Shekhinah itself is a manifestation of the Or Panimi. The goal of creation is achieved when the finite, transcendent reality of God is no longer just a surrounding force or existence, but is drawn down, integrated, and revealed as an inner reality within the physical world. Before Matan Torah, both Torah and mitzvahs were considered spiritual matters and were incapable of affecting the physical world. However, at Sinai, that changed. God infused his very essence into the Torah, and therefore the Torah has the unique power to bridge the gap, taking a light that is inherently transcendent and infinite and compressing it so it can be fully internalized into the physical world. At Sinai, Hashem gave Klal Yisrael the task of illuminating and uplifting the physical world through Torah, Avodas Hashem, and Gemilas Chassidim, until the Or Panimi permeates every aspect of daily life, including mundane physical acts like eating or doing business. Every effort to fulfill this task is an act of rachamim on our part towards Hashem, so to speak. Because through it, the awareness of Hashem is spread out throughout the world, and the goal of creation can be achieved. So I'll end with this one last idea. In Chabad, it's taught that the word mitzvah shares the same root as the word tzavsa, which means bond. Every mitzvah that we do is thus an affirmation of our binding relationship with Hashem. However, this bond, as we mentioned, is eternal and unchanging. We don't create it and we don't destroy it. Instead, when we choose to fulfill a mitzvah, then we affirm this connection. If we refuse to fulfill a mitzvah, or we do the opposite, then we deny that this connection even exists. So underneath this is the understanding that the relationship is there. Hashem is with us. And he's trying to connect to us. But our job is to agree to see it, to agree to be open to it, to protect it, and deepen it. So every year on Shavuos, Hashem returns to us anew, as it were, to renew and revitalize this intimate bond, and to give us new spiritual direction in the coming year. But to take advantage of it, we have to want it. And it's that Ratzon itself, the desire itself, that creates the vessel to hold it. So I do want to end with a few practical things that women in particular can do to have a meaningful and uplifting Shavuos, and kind of expand our kli expand our kelim to receive the light and hashpuz of the day. One thing is the first day of Shavuos is the yahrzeit of both David HaMelech and the Baal Shem Tov. One thing that is very masugal, is to say Tehillim. Usually the men go to shul and they learn Torah all night. But if you can say a few Kipitulach Tehillim at night in particular, it is a very important thing to do, and it will definitely bring down Shavuos to you. A lot of women, I myself, I try to finish all of Sefer Tehillim, a very powerful experience. If you do go to shul, then during Kriyas Torah, when they read the Ten Commandments, realize that it's an active rechanneling of the revelation at Matan Torah. All the light and spiritual influences of the 50th gate hit our neshamot at that time. It's happening. It's filling us with a sense of emunah that is beyond conscious understanding. Okay, so if you're just there and you know that this exists, it'll come to you. Okay. Also, because this Kabbalah the Torah, receiving the Torah, really happens. This is also this whole Shua in itself, when we are united. Even though each one of us has our own individual kesher to Hashem and our own individual Kabbalah Torah with Hashem, when we are united as a group, that vessel expands, and expands exponentially. So the amount of light that we can hold and that we can receive also grows. So if you could get together with other women, whether it's friends or it's family, and learn something or say to them, it's also very powerful. Finally, very recommended to, if you have time, before Shavuos, to write a personal tefillah or letter to Hashem, speaking to Hashem directly in your own words, or writing to him a letter is a tool that you can use to connect, to feel an intimate connection with Hashem. So for instance, you can think of all the very visible gifts and brachot that surround you. You can ask him for wisdom, patience, strength, clarity, divine assistance, the divine assistance you need to perform mitzvot with love, with kinut, with sincerity and a pure heart. You can ask him to feel his presence. You can ask him for anything. So that's it. I wish everyone a Chag Sameach, and may our hearts be open to receiving the infinite light of Hashem and His Torah anew with love and passion.